Hi students, welcome to today's lesson, today's replacement class. Okay, I hope you can hear me. Can you please respond on the chat box here whether you can hear me, and please write your class and your name and your class, okay, so that I know who is here. All right, okay, let me have a look at the chat. All right, just put in your name and your class. All right, okay, so I hope you had a good day in school. Okay, today we are going to start with chapter 5. Okay, so for the class that has not finished chapter 4, I will give another class later in the week to cover back chapter 4, the last part of chapter 4. So because I'm combining class for today's lesson, so I would want to do everything together because the other class has finished chapter 4. So I'm going to start with chapter 5. All right, okay? So remember to write your name. Afterwards, I will review back and I would like to know who has joined the class. Okay, so today I'm going to start chapter 5, 5.1. Okay, hi, Min Yin, Jen Xuan, Yi Hui, Yun Chi. All right, I can see a few of you, and Angela Law, Chong Yun Dong. All right, okay, I'm going to share screen. I hope you can see it. A minute. Okay, so I'm going to start with 5.1, which is response in plants. Okay, actually you have done a little bit of this in Form 3. Okay, if you remember your chapter 1 of Form 3, which is stimulus and response. So we also, after learning about the stimulus and response in human, we went on to talk about plants. And then you learn about these terms, tropism and also Gnostic response. Okay, I hope you still remember. If not, you don't remember, it's okay, because I'm going to explain that again to you. Okay, let's look at this. Now, plants also show response, okay, not just human or animals. So plant has got different types of response, responding to the stimuli. Stimuli is anything that happens or any changes around the plant that causes it to have the response, okay? So stimulus could be high temperature, it could be low oxygen, or it could be darkness, it could be also brightness. These are things that can happen in the environment. These are things that can change in the environment that can make the plant show certain kind of response. Response is 反应啦, all right? And the stimulus is what you call 刺激. Okay, so plants, like you see this picture here, all right, you learn it in Form 3. Some of the plants can actually bend towards sunlight, and they're actually growing. They're growing towards the sunlight. Now, this type of response is called tropism, if you recall your Form 3 work. Okay, so tropism, besides tropism, we have another group of response called Gnostic. So now we want to see the two different major groups of response. First is called tropism. The other group is called Gnostic response. Okay, now let's look here. So we will look at the difference first. What is the difference between tropism and Gnostic response? Okay. Now I'm looking at your chat and I see people are coming in and writing. Okay, write your name there. Now, so let's look at the first of all, the difference. Why we consider these are two different type of response. One is tropism, one is Gnostic response. Okay, first of all, look at the characteristic. For tropism, this type of response is actually influenced by the direction of the stimulus. That means where the stimulus comes, it will usually go towards the stimulus or go away from the stimulus. Okay, very simple thing is like the sunlight. The sunlight coming from the window. Okay, and then you know the shoots or the stem of the plant, they want to have a lot of sunlight because they want to carry out photosynthesis. So naturally, the plant will grow towards the sunlight. So when you go towards it, it's actually called positive lah. Okay, you learned that before also. And if it goes away from it, it's called negative. So for tropism, it is influenced by the direction. So if the sunlight is this direction, then the plant will go to this direction. If the sunlight is in another direction, then the plant will go towards the other direction. So it's influenced by influenced by direction. So this type of response is called tropism. Okay, so remember that. Now for Gnostic, it is not influenced by direction. It doesn't matter where the stimulus comes from. As long as there is a stimulus, then the response will be there. Okay, for example, certain plants, they will open and close the flowers. I'm talking about the flowers. They open and close based on whether it's daytime or nighttime. So certain plants, they open, the flowers bloom in the morning when it's bright, okay? So they just open. And then when it's dark, it doesn't matter the direction of the whatever, the sunlight or whatever, as long as it's dark, it will close up. So it doesn't matter with the direction, right? Direction does not respond, does not affect whether the direction of the Gnostic movement, Gnostic response. Okay, another difference is between whether it is a slow response or a fast response. For tropism, because it's a growth response, growth is 成长, all right? So it actually goes very slowly. You will see the cells multiplying gradually, and you do not see overnight. It's not instant. So it takes a long time for the growing to take place. So therefore, it's actually growing towards the stimulus, or it's going away from the stimulus. Okay, so tropism is a slow response. Okay, let me check your, yeah, okay. If any questions, please you just type there, type into the chat box, and I will respond. I'll check from time to time. Okay, for the Gnostic, in terms of the response, it is fast, it is instantaneous. That means it happens there and then, and it's actually, it is like a closing of the leaves, or the opening and the closing, okay, or the whatever lah. It's instant. You can see immediately. You don't have to wait for days. You don't have to wait for weeks to see it happening. So it's a fast response. Okay, so this is actually the comparison now. We will see actually some comparison points already. I want to give you now the comparison so that you actually have an idea what is tropism and what is Gnostic response. Okay, so tropism is always influenced. This response is influenced by the direction of where the stimulus is from. And then it's usually very slow because it's actually growing. It's growing towards or it's growing away from it. Okay, so the third one is talking about it's a growth. What kind of response is it? Tropism is a growth response. Okay, so I mentioned just earlier, it's actually slowly because the plant is getting taller and taller. So as it grows taller, if the sunlight comes from one direction, it will grow towards that direction. Okay, and then if the roots are growing downwards, right, it's also growing. And then if the water is one side, the roots will also grow towards that side. So it's a growth response. Whereas for Gnostic, it's nothing to do with growth. Okay, usually it's nothing to do. It may be growth also, but it's not obvious. So it may not be a growth response. It's the plant is already maybe adult, it's already grown up, but it can show Gnostic response based on certain situation. Okay, like for the Mimosa Buddhica, the plant that is, we call it pokok semalu. When you touch it, it will close immediately. So it doesn't matter whether it is already an adult plant or it's still a young plant, nothing to do with growth. So it will show that response when it's being touched. Okay, so here are the three differences. Okay, now let's look at tropism first. There are many factors, there are many stimulus that cause the response for tropism. So here we can see 5. Okay, now we're going to look here. Type of plant responses, right? So we first look at tropism. Tropism, we can look at, it happens to roots and shoots. So roots and shoots will show tropism response. That means it's growing lah. Roots will grow upwards and roots will go downwards and the shoots will grow upwards. So it's actually growing, okay? And there are 5 types of tropism. This is based on different types of stimulus. So what are the 5 types? Okay, so I've listed up here. Okay, now this picture shows a very big tree with huge roots, and it's actually growing downwards. Okay, positive geotropism is growing downwards, and that is to grip the soil so that it becomes firm. I mean, the plant is firmly attached to the ground and it doesn't fall down. So when you see the roots, you're always trying to grow downwards, unless of course you're talking about in the outer space. Okay, scientists have actually done experiments in the outer space, in the International Space Station, ISS. And they found that if they grow plants with zero gravity, zero gravity? That means don't have gravity. In the outer space, you will see the space, these astronauts, they're actually floating in the space station. They're floating there, all right? There's nothing to anchor them down. They're actually floating from one end to the other end. So actually, there is what we call zero gravity. If they grow seeds there, so scientists have found that actually the roots are randomly distributed. They will not actually grow always downwards because there is no such thing as downwards for the tree, okay, for the plant, because there is no influence of gravity. Therefore, the roots may not necessarily be going down. Okay, so the scientists have proven that. Okay, now let's look at the 5 types of tropism. Okay, now today's lesson will be quite short now because most of this you have seen before and it's not much points for you, but it's important for you to know this before you go on to the next part, which is 5.2. Okay, now tropism, remember it is a directional response. So the keyword here is direction. Okay, wait, let me get my pen. So the direction here is important. Whenever you talk about tropism, you must remember to talk about directional response because it is influenced by direction. Okay, it's a directional response towards the stimulus or stimuli. And there are 5 types of stimulus that can 刺激 or that can stimulate the plant. Okay, so first of all, you have touch. This is a stimulus. What I'm writing down here is actually stimulus. So when a question asks you to state the stimulus, now these are the stimulus. All these are stimulus. Okay, these are the stimulus, and this is the name or the type of response. Excuse me. So do not get your question or the answers wrongly. Yeah? If they ask for stimulus, they're talking about either touch, gravity, water, light, or chemical. That is the stimulus. But the type of response, the name is specific. If the stimulus is touch, that means if you touch the plant and it happens to stimulate it to do something, that means maybe you grow towards it or it grows away from it, that response is called thigmotropism. The word thigmo in Greek actually means touch. So this one is for touch. So it's growing towards something that it touches. Okay, so for example, I have a stem here and this is a kayu. So if the stem touches the kayu, right, it may curl around it. Now this is the Technotropism that you know. Some plants, they have this, what you call the tendrils, right? The tendrils or this very soft stem that will wrap around the pagar or the fence or any kayu that they put next to the plant. So if I have a stick here and I happen to have a stem which is very soft, and then once it touches this, it will stimulate, this kayu will stimulate this one to wrap around it. Okay, so that is called thigmotropism because it's growing. It's actually growing at the same time. If it's not growing, it's not considered tropism. If it's not growing, just for example, like that Mimosa Buddhica, you touch it and then it folds up, it's not growing. All right, you're just touching it and it just folds up. So it's not a growing response. For tropism, it's always a growing response. So that's why it's always very slow. Okay, so first one is thigmotropism. After I'll show you the examples. Now, when you talk about gravity, gravity is always acting down to the earth, to the center of the earth. So this type of stimulus that pulling the root downwards is called geotropism. So roots will show positive geotropism because roots will always grow downwards. Okay. Now let me check your response. Okay, so far no questions. Right. Next one, hydro. Okay, hydro is easy to remember. Hydro means water, right? Geo means the earth. Earth is gravity, gravity. Earth has got gravity. Geo is earth. Geo is actually 地球, right? Hydro is water. Photo. Now, photo, you always think a photo is like 照片 or pictures. Actually, photo means light. Photo means light. And then you know that you can't take pictures without any light. It'll be very dark. And you see everything black. So you need the light to take pictures actually. So that's why I call it photograph. Okay, a picture taken with light. Graph means picture. Okay, a photo is actually the light. So phototropism, it is growing towards or away from light. Okay, next one, there's another one which you haven't seen in Form 3. Form 3, you only learn 4 only, right? Phototropism, hydrotropism, geotropism, and thigmotropism. So now the 5th one, this is called chemotropism. Whenever you see the word chemo, it actually means chemical. Okay, it means chemical. So it's always, all these words are very easy to guess. Then you know cardio means heart, pulmonary or pulmo means the lungs. Then geo is the earth, and hydro is water. Chemo is always chemical. All right, so remember these 5 types? Okay, let's look at each one. All right. Okay, now what are the characteristics of tropism? We went through just now. All right, now let's look at it again from textbook. The response is permanent because once the plant grows, you know it's impossible to ungrow, isn't it? Once the thing has become longer, the shoot has become longer, how is it going to shorten back? So it is not it is irreversible. We call it irreversible. That means you cannot go backwards. We call it again this word irreversible. It's the same meaning as cannot go backwards. Okay, you cannot undo it. That means it has the same meaning as permanent. The response is irreversible once it already grow. Right, unless of course you change the direction of the sunlight, the stimulus, it can also reverse to the other side later on actually, but it will give it time lah. Okay, you give it time, then the plant, the shoot will also go to the other direction. It's possible. Okay, and this is actually influenced, this growth is influenced by hormones, plant hormones. So the next lesson, we're going to talk about hormones. Okay, important hormones that help the plant to grow, the shoot to grow longer, and the root to grow longer as well. It's actually influenced by hormones. Okay, the second point, the response is slow. That I mentioned just now, it is a slow, it's a growth response, so therefore it cannot be fast. And it is not apparent. Apparent means obvious. So 不明显的, you cannot see immediately. It will slowly move, right? Or it slowly grow towards, it will slowly curl and all that lah. So it's 不明显, it's called it not apparent or not obvious. Okay, next one. The response direction is dependent on the direction. Yeah, the response, the direction, how it moves or where it moves towards or away, depending on the direction of the stimulus. Okay, that's the three most important characteristics of tropism. And when you see what positive, it means it's going towards. It's called towards the direction. And if it's negative, it means growing away from the stimulus. Okay, means that that part of the plant does not want this stimulus, so it will try to move away from it. Okay, now let's see the different types. First of all, tropism, thigmotropism. It is the plant response to touch. So the word thigmo means touch. Now this is different from the the samalu, we call it the han xiu chao. That one is not tropism because I said it immediately closes. When you touch the plant, the leaf closes up. It's not a growth response. So always remember the mimosa plant, you call it mimosa plant, or the pokok semalu or han xiu chao, is not a tropism. Don't always think about thigmo, you think about that han xiu chao. No, it's not. For thigmotropism, a good example for you to think about is the tendril. Tendril of certain pokok like cucumber, watermelon, grapes, they have what we call vines, or we call it tendril, which are very soft, and then they need the support. So they will exhibit or they show positive thigmotropism by coiling or wrapping around an object such as wooden stake. Stake means kayu lah for support, or even fence. Now, what is flower? What flower is this? Do you know, anyone knows the flower this is? It is purplish flower, blue or purplish. Sometimes we use the petal to take the coloring and put it into certain food that we want to color as blue color. Like those lor mai fan, right? The nasi pulut, we put this flower. You call it a pea flower, okay? And then we use it to colorize the pulut to make it blue color. Anyone know what is the name of this plant? It is in Hua you will call it 牵牛花. Is it 牵牛花? Oh, sorry, there are two different types. The blue color one and the blue pea flower is a different type one. This is called morning glory. Morning glory is another one. So they actually have this stem, we call it tendril, or we call twining stem. Okay, so I show you some more pictures of here. Okay, these are other examples of tendrils or twining stem. Okay, this is another one. So anytime it touches a hard support or a stake or a whatever lah, all right, and it's hard and rigid, it will, once it touches, actually it goes like this. This is the kayu, let's say. This is the stem. Whenever it touches here, this part that touches the stem actually will grow slower compared to the outer part. This part that doesn't touch will actually grow longer. So when it's longer, it actually will curve. Okay, the part that is longer will curve. The part that is touching the kayu will actually slow down the growth. So that's why what it ends up is this one side is longer, the other side is shorter. So what you have is actually curving. Okay, this is what happens, why it curves, because the part that touches the kayu or the stake, right, it's actually stunted. The growth is a bit slower, so that it becomes shorter, and the other side is longer, so it will wrap. Okay, now that's how it goes. An example of plants with morning glory, all right? Cucumber, watermelon, and grapes. Now, besides the tendrils, you also have clinging roots. Certain plants which have roots that cling onto some trees like this. Okay, this is English ivy. So they cling onto the bark of a tree. Okay, like another one is a money plant. Money plant, pokok daun, duit, pokok duit. Another one is the epiphytes. You learned it in last chapter 3, right? Epiphytes. Epiphytes are those plants that actually they tumpang, they grow on top of the big trees, but they do not absorb nutrient from there. So they only tumpang there to get enough sunlight, to get more sunlight to carry out photosynthesis. And these roots actually, they will spread all over, but they do not go into the host to absorb the nutrients. So they're just there to grip the plant for support. Okay. Now here, this is clinging root also. Some example will be orchids. Okay, orchids will have clinging roots. Orchids. Okay, and this is also the root that actually clings onto the whatever they can get lah, right, to get more support for the roots. So these are examples. So a clinging root is also an example of that shows what positive thigmotropism, because when it touches, it will actually want to wrap around it. Okay, okay. So the first one you just mentioned is tropism. What tropism? Thigmotropism. Okay, geotropism, the second one. Talk about gravity. So naturally on Earth we have gravity. So and all roots of the plant actually grow towards gravity. So it is positive for shoots. For roots will always show positive geotropism. Okay, maybe it's a bit too dark. I put red color. Positive geotropism. Positive means it goes towards. Geo is actually the gravity, and you know gravity is down, so it's growing downwards. That will be positive lah. If it's growing upwards, that means它反, it opposite the direction of gravity. That means up lah. Opposite direction of gravity means up. So shoot will show negative geotropism because it won't go down, right? Shoot is supposed to get sunlight. Okay, so they naturally know that they need sunlight, so they actually will not go down. The shoot will show this what we call negative geotropism. They will not go downwards. Okay, so remember that, negative and positive. So the word negative and positive comes before, not after. So what positive or negative, and then whatever tropism. Okay, next one. Wait, I'll show you an example first. Geotropism. This one, geotropism. If you have a potted plant, okay, a potted plant that accidentally or you purposely do experiments, okay, you purposely tip the plant over, okay, you 故意把那个 plant you put it sideways and you leave it there for, let's say, at least 1 month. Okay, so that means in the beginning your plant looks like this. This is the pot. All right, you purposely put the plant, okay, this is the plant like that one. All right, the plant is of course growing like this, right? In the beginning the plant is like that, all right, the roots everywhere, and then of course the plant is like that lah, all right. Okay, this is the plant. Originally, when you do experiment, you gotta take a plant that looks like this. This is the bud. So you put it like that, and you leave it for at least 1 month, at least. You will notice that after 1 month, slowly, all right, this plant does not show this kind of direction anymore. It will grow upwards. This thing will automatically bend upwards because it wants to get sunlight. So it's no longer like this, all right? It will actually you will get this kind of this. So that means your shoot shows it's going away. It's going away from the gravity. So it's negative geotropism. And the root, if you were to pull out your root, the plant, you pull out, you'll find that the root is not straight like this already. It will automatically try to actually go like that. You will find some of the root will bend downwards. So that shows what? That shows positive geotropism. Okay, this is a very simple experiment that can be done. You just purposely tip the pot sideways and you leave it for at least a month. You will see the result. At least 1 month, right? So that is For the shoot, it is negative geotropism because it grows opposite the direction of gravity. Wherefore, the the root, it will go downwards, so it's positive geotropism. Okay, yeah. So we've done 2. Okay, next one. Let's look at photo. Photo done, No, sorry, not photo. Hydro first. Hydro, water. Okay. Hydrotropism is the plant's response to water. So you have either positive or negative. So usually, all right, root will want water, right? So we won't see that, any plant that doesn't want water. So it's more of the positive tropism, and that is positive. This is for roots. Root will show positive hydrotropism because they will always want to grow towards water. This is a function. Function is to absorb water. So if you have to do a simple experiment, you just purposely plant your plant like this. Okay. You with your water source on one side only. So whatever you do, you only water the plant on one side and you do not water this side. After about a few weeks, if it's a short seedling like this, you can see within 1 week already. If it's a big tree, probably you need a longer time. If it's a short, a small little seedling, you wait for it about 1 week, you will see that all the root hair and all the roots that it will actually grow to one side. It will move towards it will grow towards the direction of water. Okay, so that shows positive hydrotropism. Okay, simple, right? Okay, let's look at light now. Light is even easier to understand. You know that shoots need to produce food and they need sunlight. So shoots will always show positive phototropism because they need the light to carry out photosynthesis. Okay, so therefore a simple experiment is you leave a pot of maybe seedlings and you make sure you switch on the light, make it grow, leave it on for at least a couple of weeks. You'll find that it will bend towards the direction of the lamp. Okay, that means the plant shows positive phototropism. The stem or the shoots. We always talk about, don't say plants. Plants is too general. You must talk about which part. Is it the shoot or the root? So you must talk about the specific part, whether it is showing positive or negative, whatever tropism. Okay, not just don't say plant only. You won't get any marks with that. Okay, right. So next one, let me see. Chemotropism. Chemotropism is plant response to chemical. So chemical could be minerals, chemical could be poison, could be any chemical in the soil. So usually, all right, roots will show positive chemotropism when you talk about the chemicals that they want or they need. For example, calcium and all that, potassium, all this. So the mineral salt, they will show positive chemotropism. But if you pour some toxin, something that the plant does not want, some kind of chemical, the roots will actually grow away from it. So the roots will show negative chemotropism when they come into contact with chemical substances which are harmful to them, like poison, okay, like arsenic, all right, or some heavy metal. So they will move away. So that is chemotropism. Okay, that's negative chemotropism. Okay, so we have seen 5 types already. Now let's look at over here, our notes here. So it's actually roughly the same. All right, so we look at the types of response. You have tropism and you have Gnostic response, and make sure the difference here in terms of directional, and one is tropism is directional, Gnostic is non-directional. Okay, so and then the tropism is growth movement, this is directional. So these are the keywords when you talk about tropism. Okay, so there are 5 tropisms here. They are slow, they are not apparent, they are not clear, they are not obvious, 不明显. Okay, and actually this is because of hormones. Hormones, we will see phytohormones next lesson, which is on today, Tuesday, Thursday, your next class. So phytohormones are hormones in plants. So this is actually inducing the plant to grow towards the sunlight or grow away from sunlight and so on. So the response direction is dependent on direction of the stimulus. Okay, so this is for tropism. Either they grow towards, if they grow towards, it's called positive. If they grow away from it, it's called negative. Okay, now next one. The types are, I already mentioned here. So geotropism, which is growing towards gravity. And a very simple example is you tip the pot one side, you leave it for 1 month, and you will see the difference. Okay. Then hydrotropism is you purposely water the plant on one side, you will see the root growing to this side. Okay, hydro. And phototropism, you put the light source one unilateral, that means one side. Okay, one side, you find that the shoot will bend towards the other that direction. Okay, chemotropism, it is positive chemotropism when they grow towards mineral salt that they want, but it will be negative if they grow towards chemicals that is poisonous or harmful to them. Okay, so this response also enables the growth of pollen tube. Sometimes you know why the pollen grains after they germinate, how do they know where to go? How do they know how to find their way to the ovule of the ovary? Okay, just like a simple thing. How do scientists have found how do sperms know how to move their way to find the ovum? Okay, whenever there is a sperm in the in the vagina or the uterus, it will always know how to swim upwards. Okay, so scientists have already hypothesized that actually it's because of some chemical. So it's actually chemo. It is the stimulus is chemical. So the sperm knows how to swim their way up to the ovum, to the fallopian tube, because they say that it is because of certain chemical that's released by the ovum. So it's actually called chemotaxis. So for plant, we call it tropism. Okay, for animals or things that can move, we call it chemotaxis. Okay, so never mind about that. All right, so we concentrate on the plant first. Okay, the taxis will come later when we talk about the other that part of it. Okay, so it enables the growth of the pollen tube because it seems there's chemical there released by the ovule, so they know how to go downwards. And how the plants will undergo double fertilization, you will learn that later. You have two fertilization. Okay, so that's how the male and female, they join up together. You call it fertilization. Okay, so now we're ready to look at Gnostic movement. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, please put your response. Afterwards, I will take your attendance from there. Okay, I just want to know that who has read, who has followed my class, so that I know for my own personal reference. Okay, now let's look at Gnostic response. Okay, Gnostic response. So here in Form 3 didn't learn in detail about Gnostic. You just need to know Gnostic is just that it's fast, and it's usually for protection maybe of the plant, right? And also it is non-directional. It is fast. Okay, that's about all you need to know about in Form 3 lah. But in Form 5, you need to know about the different types of Gnostic response. So Gnostic response also got a few, not just one. So it depends on what is the stimulus again. So for Gnostic, you also have stimulus. What is the type of stimulus? It's all these different types of stimulus. So there are 5 types of photonasty. All right, let's look at the type first. Photonasty, you see the word again? The word photo always refers to sunlight, okay, or light. Seismo, okay, now seismo actually means vibration. So if you know in this earthquake, right, there's a machine that actually charts the movement of the earth. So they will try to predict when is the the earthquake coming. They have a machine called seismograph. So when the thing moves, you know there's some movement of vibration underground. So the graph will give you all the zigzag. That is actually a seismograph. So the word seismo actually means vibration. So there's a kind of what they call a mistake in your textbook there that is not so accurate. In your textbook, if you look at your textbook, for seismo, they just write there generally. Right there generally is a touch. What is it? Shock, touch, wind, and raindrops. So actually, it's more of a vibration thing. As long as you 震动, right? Anything that moves or touches it, or it can, maybe the wind blows it, then it triggers the response to happen. Okay, next one, nyctinasty. Okay, so this word refers to darkness. So when it's nighttime, maybe the flower will close. Okay, when it's morning, maybe the flower will open. So it's determined, it is through the brightness. Okay, darkness. So it's maybe day and night. The difference are daytime it will open, nighttime it will close because of the darkness. Okay, another one is thermonasty. Thermo, as you know, thermo means heat. So if it's warm, okay, maybe the flower opens. If it's cooler, then the flower doesn't open. So this is thermonasty. It's not a growth. The opening of flowers is not growth. It's just like, instantaneous. It happens within maybe within a few hours of the daytime lah. Okay, it is not slow growth. It's not a growth. All this I'm talking about is not a growth. And lastly, thigmo. Now in your textbook, it's written there vibration. So actually vibration is seismo. So thigmo is more of a touch. Now, two are very similar. Okay, so I've gone to the internet to check the differences, and I cannot find any differences. So I've seen many of the things that seismonasty is also equal to thigmonasty. So don't worry, these two are very similar. If you write either one, we will not put you as wrong because they are very similar. It's just that one is vibration, one is touch. It is basically any movement or any contact, right? It will trigger the thing to happen. That's all. So seismonasty, thigmonasty are very similar actually. Okay, now, so let me see. Let's look at the textbook. All right. Now, what are the characteristics of Gnostic responses? So again, they are not growth. All right, they may not necessarily be growth. They are not growth. 不是成长的一个过程啊。The response is fast, quick, more apparent, more obvious, 很明显. Very easily you can see happen. Okay, you can see right in front of your eyes. It happens. For example, the 含羞草 the semalu or the pokok mimosa, it closes immediately. When it does that, it's immediate. It's definitely nasty, not tropism. Okay, and then some of it is actually for survival, right? Like for example, why does the mimosa want to close the leaf? Maybe it's to protect itself. Probably if some animals pass by, it touches the leaves, so it wants to close it up so that it's something that to protect itself, right? To be harmed from being harmed by the plants or anyone that passes by. So it's usually for survival. An example is when you have remember we learned about the Venus flytrap, the plant that actually eats insects. So that one is also nasty because when any insect touches that part there, there's triggers there, the whole thing will snap up, isn't it? All right, that's a Venus flytrap. So this is definitely nasty. Anything instant is nasty. So it's very easy to remember. Tropism is slow, it's a growth. Something that happens immediately is definitely nasty already. Okay, now let's look at the different types of Gnostic responses. So photonasty, photo as you know is light. So some of the plants, especially flowers, they will respond to the light. When it's morning, they will open. Okay, like Japanese rose. Okay, 日本玫瑰, right? So they will, you see in the morning, it's actually bigger. The flower is bigger one. You see in the night time, it will actually close up a little. Not to say close up everything lah, but it's just that it's smaller. Okay, you will see the size different. Daytime and nighttime is different because of the light. Okay, seismonasty. Now this one gives the example of the mimosa. So this name of the plant is is Mimosa. Full name is Buddhica. Okay, and then you underline. There's a way of writing this. You learn it later and next few chapters. Mimosa Buddhica is the way of writing the scientific name of certain species. This species. So you underline. Okay, it's written in italics. So it is the response towards mechanical stimulus, like contact, you touch. It's like shock, right? Vibration, touch. In fact, wind also can. It doesn't have to be a human touching or any animal touching it. Even raindrops, when the rain drops on it, it will also close up. Okay, so it can be seen on the leaves, a stigma, and a stamen. Okay, so actually now what causes the Mimosa Buddhica to actually close up? Now this is not needed for you to in the exam, but in order just to satisfy your curiosity, usually why was it closed up? Okay, the reason is this: when you touch the plant, at the base of the leaf, they have some special cells. Okay, we call it the part that the cells that holds the leaf there, right? The water inside the cell will run out. That means it's something like osmosis, right? The water moves out, so it becomes flaccid. Lack of water potential. So water 出来了, all right? So the cell becomes flaccid. So when it's flaccid, it becomes soft. The stem becomes soft, and that causes the leaf to drop or to leaves to fold up. So it's because of the water, okay, water potential. The water will move to the adjacent cell to move out of the cell. So this cell becomes actually flaccid. That's why it closes. Okay, I'll show you a video. All right. So this video shows. It is explained by I think Indian lady. So the accent is a little bit heavy on the Indian one, but you try to listen to it, okay? Later I'll give you the link in your Telegram so you can watch it again. Can you start?
Mimosa Buddhica is commonly known as touch-me-not plant. This is because its leaves show a peculiar type of movement in response to the stimulus of touch. The leaves of touch-me-not plant have swollen base called the pulvinus.
Swollen base,
When the plant
cells
or the leaves receive the stimulus of touch, a chemical is released which travels up to each pulvinus. On receiving this chemical, the inner cells of the pulvinus undergo exoosmosis. That is, they lose water and become flaccid.
They become flaccid.
This results in closing up of the two opposite leaves. This movement, shown by the leaves of touch-me-not plant, is known as thigmonasty. After a few minutes, the cells of pulvinus undergo endoosmosis and become turgid. This will cause opening up of the leaves.
Okay, so after it closes up, all right, later on the water will go back into the cell, go back to the cell of that pulvinus, right? And then it becomes turgid. So it becomes turgid, it becomes firm. So the firm, it opens back again. Okay, so that is the response, the mechanism behind the closing of the leaves, thigmonasty for Mimosa pudica. Okay, you don't need to explain that. It's not in the syllabus. We will not ask you that, but you just need to know that this is an example of thigmonasty. Don't go and give thigmotropism. Now, the most important thing is that we don't specify the difference between thigmonasty and seismonasty, but there is a difference in thigmonasty and thigmotropism. Okay, here. Wait, sorry. No need to repeat now. Here. Now, remember this is the nasty one. Nasty. This is the tropism. Remember? This is the one with Mimosa pudica. The one you touch, it closes up. Don't make the mistake of making these two the same. Thigmotropism and thigmonasty, they are two different things. Just now, the thigmotropism is like the tendril. Remember the tendril, they wrap around the caillou. So this is the tendril one. Cucumber, grapes, all that. Okay, tendrils, they wrap. Now, so difference, what's the difference here? Is the directional, again, because of tropism, is directional movement. So nasty is non-directional movement. Okay, both also touch. Therefore, you can see the word thigmo in front there. Thigmo just means touch, but one is directional, one is non-directional. So sometimes they may ask you this kind of question. What's the difference between thigmotropism and thigmonasty? They won't ask you about thigmonasty and seismonasty, which I say is about the same. Okay, so they will ask you about maybe thigmotropism and thigmonasty. This one is possible. Directional response. So the direction of the thigmotropic response is dependent on the direction of the stimulus. So I say the stimulus direction is very important. So this one is not dependent. It's called independent. Okay, it does not matter where the direction of the stimulus for this Mimosa pudica. You touch it anywhere also, it doesn't matter. It will still close up. Okay, then for thigmotropism, it is a growth response actually. Stimulation of growth. So remember, tropism is a growth response. And for thigmonasty, just now about the plants, leaves closing up and everything, is because of the changes in the turgor pressure. The water comes out from the cell, right? Water comes out of the cell, so it becomes flaccid. So it will be softer. Then the leaves will close up. Okay, it's not a growth response. And lastly, examples, a coiling of the plant tendrils, okay, around the solid surface like a fence or the stick, right? And then for thigmonasty is closing of the Mimosa pudica leaves. And also remember the Venus flytrap, when the plant or when the insect goes inside there, it just snaps up. Okay, that is also nasty. Okay, right. You can watch this again and take a picture later, right? So here I've gone through, again, let's look at this one. One more. That is one. We've just done the thigmo. Another thigmo. Another nasty. Seismonasty done. Nyctinasty. Nyctinasty is a circadian rhythm that responds towards the onset of the onset, means day and night. Circadian rhythm is what you call it, the day and night kind of rhythm. Okay, something to do with day and night, lor. So like the examples, the river tamarind, right? You will close the leaves at night and opens up. Unfurl means opens during the daytime. So because of the day and night 那个关系啦, so it's called nyctinasty. Another one, thermonasty. This is towards changes in the surrounding temperature. So example is the tulip. Tulip is one of the national flower of Netherlands. Okay, Holland. Okay, Netherlands. It's very beautiful flowers called tulips. So when it's warmer, there's an increase in temperature, the tulip opens. And then when the temperature drops, okay, when the surrounding temperature drops, then the tulips not bloom as nicely. Okay, so either close or open. Okay, one more, thigmonasty. Like I said, this one thigmonasty 好像那个 seismonasty 有什么分别呢？是差不多一样的。It's about the same. You see, this six just now the seismonasty, they give you example of the Mimosa Buddhica. Now this thigmonasty, they give you an example of the Venus flytrap. It's also the same thing. It should be more of not vibration, but it's touch. Thigmo actually means touch. Vibration is more for the seismo. Okay, so this is for Venus flytrap. Example, when an insect goes in accidentally or wants to take the nectar, so it triggers the mechanism that it will just snap up. Okay, so that is thigmonasty. All right, okay, now let's see what I have here. So that's why usually thigmonasty and seismonasty, they are more or less the same thing. So we will not give you a question to ask you what is the difference between thigmonasty and seismonasty, but rather we might give you a question. What is the difference between Technotropism and thigmonasty? Like just now, like this one. One is tropism, one is nasty. The difference is very obvious, like this one. Okay, this one we may ask you, but we will not ask you the difference between thigmonasty and seismonasty. So here, there's one I found out. It's about the same. What is the difference between thigmonasty and seismonasty? So see, thigmonasty is a plant movement touched by touch. That's why I see the word here, touch. Okay, so thigmo is touch. Okay, seismo is vibration, shaking. So 分别是在这里了，但是 it's about the same lah. You see, when a Mimosa Buddhica is touched by a human, then maybe you call it thigmonasty law, right? When the wind blows, wind blows is not human, right? When the wind blows and the Mimosa Buddhica just closes up the leaves, then you call it seismonasty law because it's the wind, or maybe vibration. Something happens, something generates a vibration, and then the leaves vibrate. Then it's also called seismonasty. So actually, it's not much difference. Okay. So here, Mimosa Buddhica gets folded when we touch it. That's called thigmonasty. And when it's shaken by the wind, it's called seismonasty. So it's roughly, for me, it's about the same. Okay. So we will not ask a question like that. Okay. It's more, if you want to be very specific, just remember thigmo means touch. Seismo means vibration. Okay, shaking, vibration. Okay, so let's see what else extra I have over here for you. So nasty, not flower. Examples. Just I give you the example of Japanese rose closing at night because it is not bright anymore. Another example is 牵牛花, morning glory, and dandelion. Okay, the flower closes up at night. Seismonasty, they give you the example of when you touch the thing, the Mimosa Buddhica. All right, so it closes, Mimosa Buddhica. Okay, right. Nyctinasty is a rhythm of day and night. Okay, the daily cycle of day and night. So legume plants are those pokok kacang. Okay, from the kacang 那个种类那个 type of kacang pokok kacang right? And it's a river tamarind. The Leucina leucocephala. This is same thing. River tamarind. It closes the leaves at night and opens it in the daytime. Okay, long bean as well. Examples are okay. Thermonasty. Temperature is the stimulus. So when there's an increase in temperature, it will open up. And then when temperature drops, becomes colder, the temperature becomes cold, then the flower doesn't bloom very nicely. Okay, it's smaller lah. Doesn't mean that it doesn't bloom. The flower is there, just that it doesn't bloom. Not so it's big, not so, you know, not maximum size. Okay, thigmonasty, they give you the example of the Venus flytrap because of vibration. Actually, it's not wrong to say it is because of touch also, because the insect also touch, isn't it? The Venus flytrap and the pitcher plant, so they will make the thing close up. All right, so this is thigmonasty. You can also say seismonasty, it doesn't matter. Okay, now comparing. This is a popular question when they ask you to compare and contrast. Do not forget about your similarities first. Don't forget similarity. At least give one similarity, one S, plus the rest will be, let's say, depends on the marks. If the marks are 6 marks, then you must have 5 differences. Okay, example like that. So first of all, you just say, what are they? What is the similarity between tropism and Gnostic response? They are both responses of plant towards external stimulus. Must say towards what? You cannot just say responses of plants, no meaning. Response to what? Response to external. External means 外面的 stimulus. Okay? Both are vital, means are important for the survival of a plant. So more importantly, you just write the first one, similarity. Okay, let's look at differences. Again, let me emphasize the differences. Directional. This one is non-directional. What does it mean? The response depends on direction of stimulus. The other one, the response does not depend on direction of stimulus. Okay, irreversible, cannot grow backwards, right? You grow already, you cannot ungrow, definitely. Yeah, it becomes long already, cannot become shorter already. So for Gnostic can reverse because the Hansiu Chao, you close up, after a while, it opens back again. Okay, same like the Venus flytrap. After eating the insect, after digesting everything, all right, it will still open back to catch another one. Reversible. Another one, this is growth. This is not necessarily a growth, it's not a growth response. And then this one is slow, not apparent, not obvious. This is quick and very obvious, more apparent. Okay, it occurs where? At the shoot tip, at the root tip. And for the Gnostic response, is any part of the plant. Any part. It's not only specialized at the root and the shoot. Because why root and the shoot? Because this is a growth. That's why it's root and shoot, because it's a 成长一个 process like that. Okay, stimulus, they are all mixed up. It could be light. I see light here also got gravity, heat, water, touch, chemical. So they are different for the stimulus. So the first few are more important in terms of the differences. Okay, so let me see what else I have for you. I think that's about it now. So for today's lesson, it's actually very simple only. You just need to remember the types only. Okay, so the next lesson we talk about the different types of hormones in plants. Okay, this is another example I'll now show you. This is a drawing done by the very famous Charles Darwin when he went on his expedition to investigate about all these plants. So he saw this leaf during the daytime. It's open. And the leaves sleep at night, so they close up. Okay, so it is nyctinasty. All right, so opens in the day and then it closes at the night. All right, okay, any questions from students? Any questions so far? Now see that the last thing you typed in was somebody's attendance. That's about it, I think. Right, any questions? If no questions, then we will stop here. Our lesson will continue on Thursday, right? Thursday night, same time. I'll go on to phytohormones. Okay, if you have any questions regarding a lesson, please let me know and put in the Telegram group. Okay, and for the 5S4, I will have additional class for you because we did not finish the last part of chapter 4. Okay, so that was I will try to replace that because now we start with chapter 5. Okay, no questions. I see a no here, right? Okay, any more? No questions, right? Okay, so I will see you on Thursday then. All right, same time. All right. Okay, bye-bye, girls. Have a good evening. Sleep early. Okay, bye.